Morning, everybody. Happy Monday. October 19th is today when we are live streaming this short practice. Welcome you if you're tuning in live. Happy that you're here and hope that you're all well. Give me a quick hello in the chat so I know who's here. I am grateful every day for health, for family and friends, for yoga, for this practice. And I do feel that the moment that we're living in is something that this yoga could have been building toward all along. It certainly has put every practice into its full test of usefulness. Hey, Mary Beth, great to see you. Hi, Marla. I know that we have some school teachers in our community, and I, as a former public high school teacher, I cannot fathom the challenge. It's hard enough to do that work, and to have to do it virtually right now is a lot. So my thanks go out to you. Hi Judy, hey Ray, hey Jane. So happy you're all here. Such a beautiful community and such a gift. All right, so we'll get started. Hi, Susan and John. All right. Welcome. I'm Annie Moyer from Sun and Moon Yoga Studio, and this is our regular weekday morning live stream, short 30-minute practices. And today, my practice is focused around the theme that things are always a work in progress. We live in a culture of instant gratification, and unfortunately it goes against the grain of what it means really to be an evolving human. Evolution itself didn't happen overnight. There was no quick fix to any major problem that humanity has ever faced. And right now, in the fall of 2020, we are living out that reality in spades. There is no quick fix to the coronavirus, to this global pandemic, and yet here we are day by day chipping away as best we can as leaders in our community, as scientists, as medical professionals, as school teachers, as parents, as neighbors and friends. We all have a role to play, and none of those roles involve one big ta-da that fixes all of it or any of it, but it's incremental improvements, incremental coping techniques, incremental supports to ourselves and to each other that are going to get us through. And this is how yoga works. I think of the famous quote that's attributed to Gandhi, which is something like, be the change you want to see in the world. And we all know you can't just be that change one time. It doesn't work that way, right? So we have to keep being and keep being and keep being, and little by little, and keep our sights set in the present moment, and in also the wisdom of the long-term commitment to our own souls evolving. All right, so come to your mat in a simple seat, legs crossed, in any way that supports your hips and your knees and your ankles. All the joints need our love and participation in their good, healthy states. And take a breath that draws in and that draws out. And now just tip the head to one side. So you may feel a lengthening in the side of your neck. Just stay with that. And now, rather than lifting the shoulder to tip further sideways, tip the whole shoulder girdle over in the same direction that the head tipped. Stay there for a moment. So we're moving incrementally into a side stretch to cultivate patience, to remind ourselves of the gradual changes that take place. And perhaps we could imagine that the longer a change takes to be effected, then the more lasting it is. Now tip over a little more for the whole rib cage. And then you feel the side of the waist lengthening. And maybe now an outer hip starts to feel stretched as you raise an arm overhead. And you can support yourself with the other hand on the floor. And reach into this long side opening the torso. Take a few breaths as you're here, and we can think, okay, we've arrived in this big side stretch. We can stay here for another full cycle of breath. And then as change happens, we come back up and we move in a new direction, tipping the head to the other side and pause. And now tip the top of the shoulder girdle and pause. And now tip the whole rib cage and pause. And now the side of the waist is stretching, and now the outer hip, and then the arm finishes it off. And we breathe, and we enjoy what's here in this moment. And we know that it won't stay forever. And then we come back up. Now, both arms are going to lift in a moment, but start with just raising the palms. And imagine that you're supporting a fluffy cloud. And then raise the elbows and the forearms, supporting a fluffier, bigger cloud. And then lifting the upper arms. And then slowly begin to straighten the arms and reaching up tall. Take an eager inhale. And on an exhale, slowly turn the upper torso to one side and then float the arms down. Take that fluff of an imaginary cloud with you and drape it down next to you. Lay it next to your seat on the side and turn and turn and turn as the head turns. And now same thing, backing out the way we came in. Turn the head forward, turn the torso forward, lift the fluff again, gradually, raising the arms until they're straight up above. Eager inhale, and then a gentle, patient exhale as we turn and lower the fluff and lay it down next to us on the other side. Turning the head, breathing with a breath. And then gently lifting and turning back upright, and then float the arms down. And then hands to the knees, and very gradually, with tiny little increments, tip the top of the pelvis back and round the spine and round the shoulders and drape the head down. And then with patience and ease, reverse the arch of the spine forward, lift the heart, lift the gaze, and back and forth. And so as you move through this pattern, understand that doing it the first time will never be repeated in the same way. And then the second time, even if it feels like it's the same thing you just did, there's a new organization, a new collection of cells, a new arrangement of blood flow, a shifting of tissue and fascia inside. All the time, it is never the same. And so even if it seems like we're not making progress because we're just repeating, trust that we are. As long as the movement is intentional and supported by a state of ease in the body and in the breath. And then after the next rounding of the spine back and arching of the spine forward, come back to sit in neutral, pause for a beat, and then come onto your back. Start with your knees bent, feet on the floor. You can repeat the same movement you just did with the pelvis, tipping forward, tipping back. Gently changing the relationship of your spine to the earth. Knowing that just as the spine never shows up exactly the same way from one moment to the next, neither does the earth. If there ever was a reminder of constant change, it's our understanding that the earth is constantly turning, spinning on its axis, taking us around the sun, never knowing what's coming next. All right, come to a neutral position with the pelvis and pause. And now separate your feet as wide as your mat. And take the knees just about 3 inches to one side. And then pause. Notice what's there. What's coming up as a sensation in the pelvis, in the hips, in the lower back, in the sacrum. Breathe some space and patience into it. And then bring the knees up and take them about 3 inches to the other side and pause. You might be surprised that even just that small movement creates some new awareness in the body. I can feel it in my lower back. It's like, oh, thank you for taking the time to linger here and sort this tension out. And then I go back to the first side and think, okay, wow, and this is true. There's a little less tension this time. So the gift of incremental movement and the promise of slow, gradual change is what we can really hang our hopes on right now. So taking the movements a little bigger, the knees a little further over to each side. And if you have the temptation to start to move faster, there's no reason not to. We can slow the mind down enough that the work in progress keeps pace with the awareness of movement. And so if we're moving faster and we're doing it on purpose, that's part of our progression. It doesn't not count if it's not slow. It counts if it's fast. It all counts if our mind stays present. And now you can add the head to the movement by rotating in the neck as the head turns opposite the way of the knees. then a few more rounds to each side. And then back up to center, knees pointing toward the ceiling. Bring the feet back together. We're going to take a little bit of a bridge pose exploration. Plant the feet, plant the shoulders, lift the pelvis just 3 or so inches away from the floor. Bring it right back down. Lift it another 3 inches above the floor. Bring it right back down. Maybe add on and give it 5 inches and bring it down. And then maybe 8 inches and bring it down. And any number of inches, rising up and dropping down. Long, steady breaths. And focused, present moment awareness. That's what feeds the progress. That's what makes this work powerful and valuable. Now we add the arms if that's feeling like a good idea. Reaching up, reaching back, reaching up and then down. Up and back behind as we inhale and elevate the pelvis, and up and then back down by the sides as we release the pelvis. Just a few more. Slow and steady breath. Easy, patient presence. And then pause. Bring your feet right up against each other or legs together, whichever meets first. And then bring one knee in. Hold on to the knee. And then hold behind the knee and begin to straighten up the leg with a flexed ankle. So the sole of the foot is aiming for the ceiling. And then start to lower the leg out in front of you to the floor as you reach the same side arm back. And then bring the arm back down and the knee back in. And then do the same thing on the other side. Bring the knee in. Reach in the direction of the kneecap or behind the knee. Flex your ankle and begin to aim the sole of your foot for the ceiling. Straighten out the leg. Inhale as you lower the leg straight out in front of you and extend the same side arm back behind you. And then back down and replace the foot to the floor. Repeat on the first side and we'll add on. Straightening the leg, lowering it down as you reach your arm behind you. And now leave the arm and the leg extended in a straight line. Bring the other knee in. Straighten that leg up. And then take that leg across the body into a twist. And if it feels better to bend the knee, do that, straight or bent. And then extend your other arm out so it joins the same line as the crossed leg. For a finishing touch, you can turn your head away from the crossed leg and breathe. And then come out the way you came in. Bring the arm in, bring the crossed leg up, bend that knee, put the foot to the floor, release the other arm, bring the other leg in. And now for the second side. Bring the knee in, straighten the leg up, and extend extend the leg and the arm out into a long line, reaching from fingers behind you to the heel out in front of you. Leave the limbs extended as they are. Bring the other knee in. Straighten the leg up. And then cross it over. I'm going to bend my knee because I ran out of room. I hit a wall, as we do often, and then extend the other arm to the side. Finishing touch to turn the head if your neck is willing. And breathe. And then come out the way you came in. The arm comes in, the crossed leg comes back. Foot to the floor. And then the other two limbs returning to the starting position. Bring both knees in. Circle them around just a couple of times in each direction. And then find your way up to sit with your feet in front of you on the floor, spine nice and tall. And take a breath. And so we can consider this a tiny boat pose right here. And then we can make it a little bigger by leaning back. And a little bigger by holding behind the knees and coming to the toes. And a little bigger by floating the feet away from the floor. And maybe we like this boat and we keep it as it is, or we effect gradual progress and change. We lift one shin and or the other. And maybe we straighten both legs and or extend arms. Always breathing. You can come in and out. The belly gently hugging into the spine. Protecting the lower back, keeping the sacrum tipping in to the body. So we're not moving into a place of tension or creating any sort of strain or pain. We're just doing some exploration of how a boat may progress. And then release. And now let's flip over onto hands and knees, coming to table pose. From table pose, simply with your knees in place and your hands in place, knees under the hips, hands slightly in front of the shoulders. Simply drop your elbows to the floor and bow the torso down. And then press into the hands and come up. Do that a couple of times. And we're doing this with a neutral spine, so there's no big arching like this in the lower back. The belly stays collected, drawing up into the front of the spine. So the torso remains on a nice, long, even plane from your sitting bones to your shoulders. Now, take your hands and walk them one handprint forward and do the same thing, bowing down with the torso as the elbows bend and land on the floor. And now, step the hands another handprint forward. And now, bow down. So it's a little more challenging to keep the torso neutral, to keep the lower back from going into a deeper back bend. And you can bow the forehead down, and maybe it will touch the floor. And now, take the hands just a titch forward, and instead of bending the elbows, we'll keep them straight and drop the chest down. And again, we're not necessarily looking to take that big arch in the lower back like I'm doing right now. We're looking to keep it fairly neutral, to keep the gentle, even incline
incline from the shoulders and the center of the neck, going along the torso to the hips, the sitting bones, and the tail. Couple of breaths here. So often this is referred to as puppy pose or half dog. You might feel the echo of a downward facing dog in your upper body. And then come up and walk the hands back. And now, as you might have guessed, we'll take the toes into a tuck position and find our way into downward facing dog, as we've just hinted at with the other movements. So lifting the hips as we stretch the spine back and breathe. And then release the knees to the floor, and you can come in and out of it a few times if you like. And when you're satisfied, drop the hips back towards your heels and release the belly down towards child's pose. And now come forward onto your belly, all the way down, and start with your hands stacked and your forehead on your hands. So this is the beginnings of a spinal extension, or what we often will call a back bend. This is a tiny hint at it. Take a breath. Understand that the back bend is already happening. You can wriggle the legs back a little bit to lengthen out the front of the pelvis to give your space more, give your spine and your hips more space. And now, a tiny little step into a deeper version by just bringing the elbows in closer to each other. And instead of the palms down, you can lace your fingers and rest on your forearms as the heart rises. So we came up a little higher. Elbows are still fairly forward in front of the shoulders. And now, slide the elbows back so they're right under the shoulders. The upper arms form two vertical columns. Forearms straight ahead, palms on the floor. Lift the heart up a little higher. Take a few breaths. Note where your shoulders are. Are they hunching forward? Can you draw them back and up a little bit so the heart has room to breathe, to shine? Now slide your hands a little closer and you'll come up a little higher. There's no strain allowed in the lower back, so whatever you're feeling, make sure it's clear. And if it feels like tension or strain, lower down and pause and know that you're making progress into a place of ease. And that's the goal. Perhaps you come up a little higher. Perhaps the arms straighten, the heart comes forward more. Perhaps you tuck the toes, lift the knees, roll over the feet into an upward facing dog. Perhaps that's not a great idea for your body. And then we can come back down and soften it. Coming right back out the way we came in. And all the way back down. Hands stacked, forehead resting on top of the hands. Long, steady breath. And then release the hands completely. Turn your head to one side. Take a breath in and out. And then turn the head to the other side. And take a breath in and out. And then gently push up into table pose and slide the knees forward. Come back into your comfortable seat. See if you can sit with the awkward cross, the leg in front that isn't normally the one, it's not the default. And pause for a breath here in a tall seat. And take a big sweeping inhale with the arms rising. And add a fold here, bowing down. Release the head toward the hands. Take a breath. And come back up. Maybe the head doesn't touch the hands, it's just hanging and releasing in that direction. Again, sweep up, long, steady inhale. Exhale, sweep down and fold. Head toward the hands. And one more time. Inhale, reach up. And exhale, fold. Comfortable seat, a tall spine, and if you'd like, palms together at the heart. I wish us all easy progress toward good health and healing, and not just for ourselves, but for each other, for the optimal evolution of humanity in a time when we all really need it. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day. Take good care, everybody. Thank you, Ray. So great to have you here.